All right, we are now officially recording. So for those of you on the call, please be sure to mute your devices while not speaking. I'm calling to order the NECAT board meeting of October the 27th of 2020. Out of an abundance of caution and pursuant to recommendations from federal, state, and local health agencies regarding avoiding group gatherings due to the COVID-19 coronavirus, this meeting is a teleconference meeting. Advanced public comments have been possible through email and will be read or played at the time of their relevant agenda item, if applicable. I will now take the roll call of board members in attendance. When I say your name, please unmute yourself and say present. Starting with Shauna Lynn Brandmeier.
Here.
Shayla Paz.
Here.
Lindsay Ganson.
Here.
Brian Mansfield.
Here.
Dana Schroering.
Here.
Willie Sims Jr. I know he's here. Willie, big fella, can you say yes? You're here? Big fella. Can you acknowledge presence, please? Waving, okay, that works for me. So now the board must vote on the record that the COVID-19 pandemic requires us to hold a telephonic meeting as permitted under the governor's executive order number 16. Do I have a motion to hold an electronic meeting?
So moved.
I second.
Lindsay and then Brian. Okay, all those in favor of holding an electronic meeting say yay, opposed, nay. In favor?
Yay. Yay. Yay.
Any opposed? Nope, motion carries into record. And now do I have a motion to suspend the rules in order to hold an electronic meeting?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of suspending the rules in order to hold an electronic meeting say yay.
Yay.
Yay. Yay.
Opposed? Nope, motion carries into record. Okay, we are officially starting our electronic meeting. So in the packet that I sent, you will find the September minutes. For those of you who weren't at the meeting, there was also a link of the entire recording provided. Anyone who hasn't had a chance to watch and or review, please do so now. And when appropriate, and someone wants to make a motion to pass into record, please make yourself known.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Shauna makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. All those in favor say yay.
Yay.
And
Yay.
opposed?
Yay.
All right. Any opposed? Nope. Meetings will pass. The minutes will pass into record. Also, you'll have the in the email I sent, there were the financials that Rachel put together. One side note is that I did get a chance to deposit the $5,000 check from Ascend yesterday. It's not reflected in Rachel's documents, but Rachel, do you have any other comments that you would like to add to what you provided? You're on mute, Rachel.
Everything is exactly the same with the very few expenses that we keep on keeping on, and we're now at about, with the send money, $30,000 in the bank. So, 5 months.
Yep.
And counting.
Yep. All right. Does anyone please give yourself a chance to look at them. If there's any questions, comments, now is the time. And once everyone has had a chance to review, I will take a motion to approve the minutes into record. Or I mean minutes, financials, excuse me.
I make a motion to approve the financials as presented.
Shauna Lynn makes the motion. Anyone to second?
Second.
All those in favor say yay.
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 Any opposed? Nope, finances move into record. Okay, so bring up my notes here. So as mentioned, I did get a chance to meet up with Cameron yesterday. We deposited the $5,000 Ascend check. This is for the virtual job shadow. You know, this is what we've done in the past with Metro Nashville Public Schools when we had studio space open. We're transitioning to more of a virtual program, which I know Cam has been working on with 4 schools here in town to schedule some time and provide some video and do, you know, kind of the Q&A things that they would normally do in person. And I'll let Cam talk into that when we get to his report. Also, to make you guys aware, the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee had a discretionary grant application that for funds due to everything going on with the COVID and nonprofits in need. They are dispersing up to $5,000 per nonprofit, and they will be reviewing everything in December in their meeting and then make some announcement in January. What we did, we created a grant application for virtual learning at home, which is similar to what we submitted for the Dugas Family Foundation with guest speakers talking about best practices about core and TV film production that we would do online. What we would be doing is covering, the money would be covering speaker fees as well as gratis scholarships to up to 20 participants per workshop. And that would be the $80 annual fee that we usually charge for producers to actually have access to the studio, as well as submit content and programs. So we'll see. We'll hope, you know, fingers crossed. I think looking at the grant, it was my first one that I've done complete as a narrative. So hopefully it passes muster, and we see some additional money in January. As far as additional funding, I'm going to reach out to Ascend this month. Typically around this time in November is when they look for applications for the following year for grants. Because of COVID, it was delayed this year. That's why we didn't get our disbursement until September of the $5,000 for MNPS. I will get a timeline from them. Obviously, since we had just received this money, it's going to be a few months before we're actually able to execute the programming for which we received money for. But I'll get an idea from them what their timeline is or what they're thinking about doing, given everything that's going on. They may have a new idea of how they're going to structure this. So we'll follow up on that at the next meeting. Giving Tuesday is this December 1st, and we're going to be updating our Community Foundation page accordingly. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. And then we also have our Feel Good Fridays campaign that Shauna Lynn has been spearheading. We have, it looks like a pretty robust schedule. Shauna Lynn, do you want to speak into Feel Good Fridays?
Sure, happy to. So we have had a lot of interest from nonprofits on Feel Good Friday, so I'm happy to report that. Big Fella and Dana have been making phone calls to nonprofits and reaching out. We've had some reach out to us directly from Cameron's emails out to our list, and I think just word of mouth. Hopefully everybody has access to the drive. If you don't have access to that Google Drive and would like to see the documents in the schedule, let me know. As we start to solidify everything, I'll also send out the schedule to everybody so you have it. But looking at it right now, we are scheduled through the end of January with people. So we have had a lot of interest and that kind of thing. So on Giving Tuesday, I think, you know, we have one scheduled for December 4th. I wanted to get the board's thoughts on that. Do we want to hold that one or wait till the next week? That was my only question that I wanted to kind of discuss with everybody. Right now, I've held the 11th because I wasn't sure when Giving Tuesday was. So I can mention to the nonprofit that's scheduled on the 4th hey, do you want to move to the 11th because of this? But I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, when we were talking to Pencil, Shonalyn, it seems like they might have gotten the wrong date as well. So I think my suggestion, and the board can chime in, would be to try to switch the two. You had
Yeah,
the
I can do
following
that.
week reserved, and if they're willing, I mean, they may not be. I mean, it is coming on top, even though it's a week later. The one that I think that Friday right after doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
Since a lot of pushing will be going towards Giving Tuesday, but the following Friday, I think would. And again, if Pencil is up for that, I think that might be a time to reschedule them, but.
Okay, I can reach out to them and schedule. So if you're looking at the schedule on the Google Drive right now, December 11th is open. That's just because I want to switch that one from the 4th to the 11th. I want to make sure that's okay with them. But we're already, the next opening is January 29th.
So I had a
A lot of
question on
response.
this.
Yeah.
The italicized, the Operation Stand Down, and the Legal Aid Society, are those to be confirmed?
So Operation Stand Down, they emailed me yesterday, and so we're talking about content. Those are pretty much in. Legal Aid responded to me last night, and they're in. So those
Okay.
are the two updates. So those are solid, and I'll confirm them in the schedule. And so Cameron, at some point, we need to kind of discuss, like, are we just going to record a bunch of them one afternoon, but I'll get with you on how we want to schedule that.
Sure.
So if you take a look at the list of nonprofits and you want to be the second, or we need 2 people from NECAT to be on the Zoom, that's our preference. So if you see one that speaks to you and you want to be part of that Zoom interview/conversation, let me or Cameron know, because I think a variety of board members and different people on there would really make it great. So if you've got a particular passion for one of these nonprofits, let us know. And I'll send it out after the board meeting so everybody can see the schedule, now that we've solidified a couple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll add to that, Shonalyn. I think, because this is a board-driven initiative, I think it's imperative that we have board members do the hosting.
Yeah.
Cam does have a lot on his plate. I know Cam is willing to help out, as he's mentioned, but I think it's important for us. I mean, again, these are mostly the nonprofits just basically talking about what they want to talk about. I mean, the hosting part is just more conversational. There's really not a lot on our
Right.
end, with the exception of just like making people aware of who we are, since we are splitting whatever the funds that come in through the GoFundMe 50-50. So, I mean, yeah, I would
Right.
like to echo Shonalyn. I would say look at those listed nonprofits, or if you have another one that you would like to try to schedule, that you feel passionate about, that you would want to host an interview, please let us know.
And I just want to say,
And
I've been super excited about this. I think Shonalyn's done a great job on coordinating this. We've had a lot of interest come through. Every time that I've sent out an email that mentions Feel Good Friday, I get 2 or 3 emails back saying, how do we get involved in this? And Shonalyn, I owe you an email right now. I know, because I've got a couple people that I guess had reached out to us initially weeks and weeks ago when we did the first one. I'll put that together this week and make sure that you have it so we can touch base with all those people as well. But yeah, this is super exciting. I think I'll echo again what Tyler just said. It's as a board driven thing, having you guys host this I think it's good for just community wise. It lets people know who you are. It lets our members who are watching at home see your faces, and just has you being, more proactive in NECAT, right there front and center. I think it's going to be great, because I adore being able to share my passion for NECAT all the time. It's like I've kind of become the de facto face just because I'm the only one that was in the building. But I think this is going to be great, because it's going to have a lot more people saying like, oh, there's a lot more going on at NECAT than just what Cameron's doing, at home right now. So I'm excited about this.
And so the next one that we have, that's a nonprofit. So on the 30th, we're doing the Dr. Gangrene Marathon. And then on November 6th, Dana is going to record with Nashville Cares. So Cameron, I know I've seen some emails between you and Dana about content and that kind of thing. So I think we're pretty good on that.
Yeah, we're recording on Friday. Or
Okay,
this
good.
Thursday. I lied. This coming Thursday, we're recording, and I'm working with their new development director on the content. So I will get all that over to you Thursday afternoon, Cameron.
Wonderful.
That sounds great. So I will focus on November 13th And I think Cameron, I've already, November 20th, I think I've already connected you with the communications person for that one. So
Yes.
I'll just circle back around on those that are coming up and make sure those are next up on deck. I'll also get with Brian about updating our website with a page for Feel Good Friday, so we can put the GoFundMe link right there and we can just tell people, go to our page. So the key to all this, especially on November 6th and the week after that, is really just awareness and promotion, social media, sending it out to your list, that kind of thing. Because again, anything that next week raised on the GoFundMe page, we split it 50-50 with the featured nonprofit. So, and then I'll keep you guys updated as it comes along. So.
That's great. I love hearing that all the progress you guys have made through all that. And I'm sorry I haven't been available, but I just finished the census job, so I'm available now Monday through Thursday. So
Wonderful.
whenever you like me to do a recording session for a nonprofit, I'll be happy to do it. We just need to schedule it and we'll give it a go.
That's wonderful. Okay, when I send out the agenda, let me know your availability. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Big Fella. He has made a lot of phone calls to a lot of these wonderful nonprofits. So I just wanted to give kudos to him for all of his work on it. He and I've conversations back and forth about these, and I think we've both really enjoyed setting these up. So and that's a good pitch, and Big Fella, you may want to speak to that. If there are nonprofits that you're involved in, please make the phone call, take a look. We can schedule them. We can keep going. We've got, 2021, which I can't believe we're saying that now, but 2021 schedule that we'll just keep scheduling and get these signed up. So Big Fella, any additional thoughts or comments? Because I know you've been making a lot of these phone calls and talking to a lot of people.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Really, I just wanted to say it's been really cool calling all these nonprofits and just reaching out to a bunch of old friends. And I don't know, the Feel Good Friday feel good for everybody. Everybody I call, they are really excited and they're just really excited. And it feels like we're helping them out so much. It's like Shauna Lynn told me, it's like the first good call they got in a long time. And everybody's excited. I would encourage all of y'all to reach out to any nonprofit friends you might have. It's just a great way to like reconnect with people too. Since we all kind of been in this pandemic, there's a lot of people I haven't talked to in a long time, but through this, I just get to reach out to a bunch of friends and everybody's happy and excited. And I send them to Shauna Lynn and I guess the good happens.
I take it from there.
It really feels good though. I'm telling you, like it feels good personally too. Like when you call somebody and you could tell they're genuinely happy that you're calling.
Mm-hmm.
It really feels good. It's not like reaching out asking them for money or nothing. It's a lot easier and cooler.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Great.
So other questions about Feel Good Friday?
I've
So
got
on my
one
list,
more thing I want to share.
Yeah.
I was going to put this in my report, but I'll put it here just because it has to do with Feel Good Friday. So this past week, we had the NECAT Film Festival, but we did an interview for Feel Good Friday that was 3 of the filmmakers that were in the program, but also 3 filmmakers who had went through the NECAT program. I don't know if anyone got a chance to see it. It aired Friday at 6 and a couple times over the weekend, actually. But Marty King Young, Stephen Michael Zach, and Jeremy Todd Phillips, who all are 3 name people for whatever reason. But it was really kind of an interesting thing. So Marty was she's working on the National Geographic Aretha Franklin documentary in Atlanta right now. She was there like at their production office doing the interview. Steve Michael Zach runs a Nashville filmmakers group that was supposed to start meeting at NECAT when the COVID pandemic started. And then Jeremy Todd Nichols, his children actually went through the camp last year, and then after he finished the camp, he came back in, went through our regular adult learner program. So their whole family has been making videos from home during this entire pandemic. They've turned a couple things into us, and so I just wanted to share with you, if you haven't had a chance to see it, we're going to put it up online. So I would encourage you all to watch it. I think it was just a really good talk with people on kind of seeing all the different ways that NECAT helps people in different stages of their career. I think it gave us an opportunity to showcase a couple of people that were making things right before we actually just launched all of those movies to everybody else. I don't think we would have had a chance to have that kind of program had Feel Good Fridays not popped up. So the nonprofit aspect of it is absolutely, the best way, but I think it's also great because we were able to showcase something that was right here at home. And I'm just really proud that we were able to put that together. And again, just want to lay that in here on top of that. So if you didn't see it, try to take a chance to look at it sometime later this week.
Question. We have a Feel Good Friday logo, right? Do we
Yes.
have, okay. So can we get like, almost like a toolkit, or like I can shoot out like a piece of copy and maybe a frame or a graphic or something that we could use on social to promote each individual episode. Something that could be shared on NECAT's page, but then something that we could share with each of us that we could promote on to our own networks as well.
So the logo is out on the drive. So feel free to pull that down if you need it. In terms of specific to the one that's coming up, where it says kind of Feel Good Friday and the date with the nonprofit,
yeah,
that kind of thing. We can see, we don't have a graphic artist on standby. So that would be our only obstacle to it, but I can play around with it and see if I can create something. Or Shayla, if you've got time.
Yeah, we can play around with that on Canva.
Yeah.
Pick one standard, so we can just change the photo or the logo.
Perfect.
So I'll browse through there and see what appeals to us.
Yeah, I think that'd be
Okay.
great. And then after we produce each episode, maybe if we could just shoot out like like a tease, some copy, and tune in Friday at 6 or whatever, and share it with the board, and then we can pop it on NECAT's socials. But then we each have that content to share too. So just an idea.
I think that'd be great. So if we have one that's specific to, hey, Feel Good Friday, this is airing, and the nonprofit, and then maybe one that's like throughout the week of this nonprofit is going to be featured on our NECAT channels.
Yeah.
And also directing them to the GoFundMe page so we can, the fundraising aspect of it as well. Shayla, maybe you and I can touch base, either via email or sometime this week, and we can kind of brainstorm through it, and I can give you the list and the logo.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
I got a question. What about some kind of like, this might be a Cameron question. What about some kind of like 15 or 30-second like spot that we could just consistently run about Feel Good Friday on all the stations?
Absolutely. Right now, if anything like that, I think would be good. We haven't produced any kind of promo for it yet. Honestly, just because the show has kind of been forming in the bubble, and since we had the original one, we kind of took some time back and said, what works about this? What do we need to change up? Obviously, the second one we just did isn't the prototype one because it's more from nonprofit. But big fella, if you want to make something, or if I need to make something, I can make time for that. It's just a matter of finding ways to put that all together from home in a way that is that kind of tells what the show is going to be.
Okay. I'll think about it. I'll give you a call too.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Great. Anything else, Sean or anybody about Feel Good Friday? No?
I'm excited.
All right, well, yeah, it's great. Very, very great news. I think the only other thing I had on my chair report here was that I think our Nashville Preds mid-year report is due this Friday, end of day. Cameron and you and I spoke about this. Since we're doing the Preds camp either over winter break or spring break, we're just going to do our due diligence and let them know that, right?
That's correct. And that's always been the plan since all this started out. We knew we weren't going to be back in time for fall break, which has happened a couple weeks ago. So the Predators have been aware. They're really good about keeping touch with us and letting us know. I get a weekly email just kind of showing all those things that they do. So we are going to get that all turned in by this Friday and just kind of let them know, hey, we've got this in the plans, but it's going to be, a little bit further down the road.
And I believe applications for next year are due January. You got that email, correct?
That's correct. They just opened them up. I guess that was a week and a half ago at this point, and they're not due until January. We have historically always kind of done it in the middle of when it's due, which is kind of things we like to be able to report on what's come up.
Right.
So it's going to be a little bit later this year, but I have no doubt that they're very much aware of what's going on at NECAT, and I don't think that's going to be a problem moving forward.
Okay.
I feel like we will get that grant.
How
Okay.
do we find out which organization is doing grants for nonprofits?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, I find out a lot of things through the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee.
Okay.
They announce a lot of things. The Ascend one, we just know because we've been dealing with Ascend for the last 7 years. I'm sure there's others, but I don't know. I don't know if there's an actual resource,
Mhm.
and I don't know if anyone on here might know. But that's one of the things we need to be looking at if there's any other opportunities for other grants that may be applicable to what we do.
Mhm.
But the ones that we've consistently gone to have been, the Nashville.
I
Codes.
know of two avenues. One is Atlas, like Atlas the map, but it's
Okay.
an organization called Atlas that they do a lot of funding for the arts
Okay.
and nonprofits. And the other one is Nissan.
Yeah, well, we've gone to Nissan before.
Okay.
We actually got turned down last year from Nissan because our ask was too small, if you can believe it.
Oh,
They're pretty much filling grants that are like in the 20,000 plus range, and we had a diversity application, which we thought was in their wheelhouse, but the ask was less than 10,000, and basically they weren't entertaining that. That leads to a question that we can get into in a group discussion, because I was talking with a couple of the board members and Cam about some ideas about some of the, besides grants, of ways we can approach local companies. But I'd like to table that for a second. And I think if everyone's okay, we should go into the studio report, because we're already 40 minutes in. I want to make sure Cam has a chance to report on that.
Sure, and I'll try to be brief here. I say we already talked about Feel Good Friday and everything there. Just want to kind of do a postmortem on the NECAT Film Festival, which just wrapped up this weekend. I don't know how many of you got a chance to tune in at all, but we had 55 entries that ran across new programming Friday night, Saturday night, and then during the day on Saturday and Sunday. We repeated the program from the night before. Sunday night, we did a best of, kind of the best of the festival that we ran. Had some really just spectacular entries. What this kind of allowed for us was we were able to put 55 new programs on the air, basically. Of those 55, some of these will be a 1 weekend off, but I feel like more than half of them will be programming we can continue to run at NECAT as like interstitial programming and things like that. I feel like this is a repeatable thing that we can do, throughout this coming year. We raised $524.15 via Film Freeway, just taking entries. We didn't charge any of our NECAT members anything for an entry. We felt like that they had already paid their dues through just their normal membership. We want to continue that, but kind of what I feel like we could do is this next year is theme it. So 1 month we may have a documentary program where we just take documentaries. Like I say, I think it would be really great this year for Pride Month to just do an LGBTQ situation where we do anything based on that. October obviously makes sense to do horror movies. Dr. Gang Green hosted the horror movies this time. We got a lot of really good response for that. This weekend we're doing a marathon with him. It's going to be 60 hours starting Friday night with a Feel Good Friday interview with him, and then it'll run just 24/7 basically till Sunday night at midnight. We're going to be showing a lot of his old programming. If you aren't aware, he came back to the network because me and him have a relationship. He actually has broke the streaming mechanism a couple times with the Roku, because so many people are tuning in from out of town to watch his show. We get complaints because the stream has not been playing. It just buffers because there's so many people on it, which is a good problem to have. So I feel like that's gonna be a good thing to go. He cut a promo for people to donate money that we've started airing on NECAT just about hourly at this point right now, and it's going to run a ton throughout the marathon. So I feel like hopefully that will. I don't know. I can send that out again to the board so you can see it. But basically, it talks about how you can donate to NECAT and kind of what we do as far as like teaching people how to make make television and make movies and things like that. So I feel like that was a really, just a really good get for us in general. And I think this weekend's going to be good. But when it comes to the film festival, I feel like this is something we could probably repeat 3 or 4 times a year at least. And I feel like after we've got this first one, it went by pretty flawlessly. I mean, it was a lot of work, obviously, but there wasn't a whole lot of hiccups with it. So I feel like it's something that going forward, we'll be able to kind of cover some of the money we haven't made with classes this year. And then after that, as this goes on throughout the years, I feel like it will grow and grow and will be a new source of income and a new way to get programming, which is different than just the regular, hey, come to NECAT, learn this, make a half-hour show, and we'll put it on the air. This gives us all kinds of new content, which makes people want to tune in. If you saw any of the stuff this weekend, it was pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of really good programming there. And I feel like the number one chore that we have is getting people to watch the network. If you can get people to watch, that in turn will get them to donate money because it's something that they're actually using. If they're not ever watching the network, they have no incentive to do that. So, we make a lot of wonderful programs at NECAT. There's a lot of great talk shows. I think it's good for the community, to have a central point where they can come to. But I think this opens it up to so many, different people that are trying to make different kinds of content just to give them a platform to put it out there. It's a brave new world than what we had done before, and I'm really excited about it. Any questions about that or anything else? That's other than, like I say, we mentioned the Preds grant. We mentioned Feel Good Fridays. I don't have a whole lot more to report, but if anyone has questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Hey, Cam, I got a quick question for you about the NECAT
Sure.
Film Festival. You might have had this in some paperwork that I have missed, but is there or are there any awards or films that are being specifically recognized that you or maybe even the board has identified as, the top tier or top echelon of film?
Yes. So we actually, the Sunday night program that we ran was the best of. Everyone that was in that block is receiving an award. We haven't announced it. My plan actually is to put it up on the Facebook page today, just kind of announcing it. And then we're going to send out a follow-up email tomorrow that's going to let everyone know that the film festival was a success. Here's the list of our winners. And also tune in again this weekend for Dr. Gangrene. We didn't want to send out a Monday email just because they usually die on the vine. Everyone's still drinking their coffee from the weekend and trying to get caught up. So that will go up later this afternoon. You'll see a list via the NECAT Facebook page. And then again, you'll see it in an email tomorrow.
Gotcha. And one more comment regarding the film festival. I think it's a great idea, and I was excited to see all of the really, really good films that were being played over the weekend. I think also, and we've talked, I think in previous meetings about doing different themed film festivals, and you mentioned that already. But doing something similar to this in terms of recognizing the programs that we currently have on NECAT, I think that providing some sort of showcase, and I think we've looked for ways to do this, but if we can maybe think about ways we can showcase the current programs that are being produced in a way where we recognize them and give them something to shoot for as far as achieving best of or the top tier or top echelon of a TV program. I just think that would be something that would give our current members incentive to raise their level of production and create a little competition, which is always a good thing in small doses. So that's just a suggestion. I think that's something that I'm more than happy to help work on, because I think it's a valuable part of what we do is recognizing people and letting them, kind of create create a tier of these are our top programs and these are who we are choosing to highlight as much as possible.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. One of the things that we had talked about early in the year was having a program specifically for that. So we track a lot of stuff when it comes to being in the studio. Obviously, who put out the most shows, as far as turning the most content, who did the most volunteer hours. We've got a lot of people that volunteer on shows that may not be the front and center of that show, but they put in a lot of time at the studio. I agree. We need to be showcasing those people. we had intentions to do that this year at the member meeting, had the member meeting been in person. But that kind of came about real last minute, just because we were waiting on the news of when we were not going to be in the studio. So I do think that's something we need to look at. How can we do that from home right now, as well as because I know when we get back in the studio, there's a good way to do it. It's just a matter of finding the time in between, because there are some people still making shows right now, and I think it would be good maybe as we start to come back, as we start to know something about going back to the studio, to get people to go back and go, yeah, I really do love being at NECAT. I want to be there. I think it's a good time to do exactly what you're talking about. We just need to find a great way to do it. And let me brainstorm on that a little bit. And John, if you've got any suggestions, we can talk privately and kind of try to present that back to the board in a way that they can chime in. So if anyone has any ideas, feel free to reach out. But I do think that's especially important as we try to get people to come back to NECAT when this is all said and done.
I think that's a great idea. The NECAT Awards. Best actor, best TV show, best producer, best director, best program, whatever, best film. That's a great idea. I totally support that.
And the Nashville 48-hour Film Festival does a great job of this, in my opinion. They seem to do a good job of recognizing all the films that are being produced. Even some of the films that are sort of done from a beginner perspective, or somebody who's just starting out, they figure out ways to give out awards to those films specifically for things that they did well. And so it makes the producers feel much better about what they're doing if they're able to be recognized for their efforts. And so, using the 48-hour Film Festival as a model would probably be a good idea in terms of how we could recognize our members and our producers.
I think we're very much on the same page with that. One of the awards that's going out for the film festival is for a filmmaker named Lauren Barina, who actually went through the NECAT program. She made her first movie during quarantine. So she actually went through our program, I want to say maybe in January or February. And then all of this kind of popped up. And so she's been, she's a student. I think she just graduated high school. She made her first movie, but we basically said, hey, this is the best first film, because we wanted to be able to recognize that. Her, she doesn't have the same exact chops as some of the other stuff that was up there, but great first effort. We wanted to recognize that. And I think it is important to meet people at all levels, not just the top, hey, this is my favorite thing I watch, but meet people where they're at and say, hey, good job doing this, because I think it always encourages them to keep going. And as I know, every time you make one, you get a little bit better. Even if the first one stinks, if you keep doing it long enough, you'll figure out something good to do. Or, I've always said you can make one great thing, or you can make 10,000, mediocre things, and then 10,000, you'll find 10,000 people who really love one each of those things. So, just that's the way to go. But I think it's a great idea, and I think we should definitely talk more about that and figure out a way to do it.
I have a question real quick, John. This might be up your alley, but with some kind of a partnership with the 48-hour Film Festival, like to just air their films, like wouldn't that make sense with us having so many channels?
Yeah, we did that. We've already done that. We did that, I think, last year. Cameron had a lot of meetings, and we actually had hosted one of their events in the studio this past year. And so we still have I know the people who run the Nashville one very well. And so we've set up meetings and met with them, and Cameron has got a relationship with them now. And so, yeah, that's a great idea. And we've already been sort of doing pretty heavily.
Oh, okay.
Kind of the one thing with the 48. So we did an event with them last year where we showed stuff in the studio and we air program content on the air. Whenever they make their new stuff, they kind of do it at a local level, and then they send their local winners onto a national level. They're not allowed to air any of those current films until after that whole cycle is over. So we usually get the stuff from the previous year to air. We had intentions of doing that this year, but again, I know COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench in everything for them too, and I know they had a lot on their plate trying to run the 48-hour Film Festival in a virtual manner and trying to be able to let people get out and make stuff. So I have reached out to Jennifer over there. I need to touch base with her again to see if we can get some of their other films, because I would love to get any of that just to run as content, because that's the other thing that we still need. I mean, you got to realize we've been closed now for months and months. We don't have as much stuff being produced. So any new content that we can get whether it be from the library or from the 48-hour film festival or any other way, is good to have right now. Because again, people at home, they don't want to see the same program on every day. If they tune in 11 and it's always the same face and it's the same show they saw yesterday, they're going to turn it off. We've got to have new programming, and I'm always trying to find ways that we can do that. And that's why I think all of these film festival, programs are great for specifically that.
What, Cam, anything else for your report?
No, that's everything I have. Like I say, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to reach out to me, privately, and I'm happy to answer any questions on this stuff. Or if anyone's got anything now, I'm happy to answer it now.
Nope. Just a quick note, Jonathan, I'm not sure if you're seeing the chat, but looks like there's some interest to open up the Google Doc for editing. Looks like Lindsay and Shayla both are trying to add some potential nonprofits on there.
Okay, I will open that up. I thought it was already editor approved, but I'll go back and look at that. And if I need to, I'll send out the link again to everybody for the editor rights and that kind of thing. But yeah, I can do that.
Great, thank you. John, do you want to give us your studio report?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, I just wanted to mention, just based on the listening to a lot of you guys in this meeting, it's very encouraging to see how engaged a lot of you guys are in, creating events and getting the news out there and getting message out there. From my perspective, it's really nice to see that, because it really, I think the success of NECAT is heavily dependent on board member involvement, and so. I just wanted to reference that, because I think that it's something positive that I've seen, not only in this meeting, but in a few of the last meetings. People getting you guys involved is very, very important. So I just want to mention that. Obviously, as everybody knows, the studio has been closed. We got word shortly before the last meeting that there was no plans to move into phase 4 until eventually spring, early of 2021. That is not changed. So we are currently still in phase 4, or waiting for phase 4 in the Nashville state plan. I obviously, it's frustrating. It's something that nobody wants. We all want to be open. And so I've been sort of having a hard time dealing with that over the last month since we got that bad news. Some positive of that, and this is the only thing that I've been sort of holding on to, because it is a difficult pill to swallow. Now that I think that the numbers are going up, I take at least a little bit of pride in the fact that we as an organization are not contributing to that spread, not contributing to those numbers, because we are closed. And so it's good that we are not putting our members at risk. It's good we're not putting our staff at risk. And so even though we're not able to open up the studio, even though we are still closed down, I'm happy about the fact that we are not contributing to the increase in numbers that we're seeing, not only in Nashville, but across the country. So I just wanted to mention that and make sure that we keep that perspective in line as we're trying to look for ways to not only raise awareness, but also raise money. The last thing that I mentioned at the last meeting was looking for an opportunity or ways we can check out equipment to the members in a safe way. So after discussing with Chris and the rest of the ITS staff, we've come up with a plan that I want to present to you guys now, and I'm open to feedback, open to suggestions. Cameron, if you don't mind, I'm going to, or Tyler, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm going to attempt to share my screen now and to show you this sort of policy document. Oh, host disabled participant screen sharing. If you could activate screen sharing.
So hang on. There we go. I think I just did it. Try it again.
Okay. Yes, here we go. All right, so I'm going to share this document. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. So this is just a very, very rough document on what our plan is for checking out equipment is a temporary solution for allowing producers to get a hold of our gear. The good news is that this equipment that we're planning to check out is NECAT owned. What that means is that we are able to charge a fee for this checkout, and then this money will go directly into the NECAT PayPal account. So it's potentially a revenue source for NECAT, which is always a good thing. So obviously one thing, the most important thing is that the only paid NECAT members that are in good standing are allowed to check out NECAT equipment. The NECAT that's going to be available for checkout are 3 of these Canon HR20 cameras, and they include tripod, batteries, SD card, chargers, and case. Each camera package is going to be $25 per reservation. And so if they were to check out all 3, that would obviously be $75. Now, the difference between what we've done in the past and what we're going to be doing for this is we're going to be checking out for 7 days. I think in the past we had a 48-hour checkout. We're going to be doing a 7-day checkout for these, which is going to be a one week long. Pickup and return for these will take place on Wednesdays. So you'll be picking up at noon and then returning at 11 o'clock a.m. So the reason for this is that we want to minimize the amount of the window for people to be coming and going, so we can make sure that we are wiping down and cleaning off the equipment as efficiently as possible. All reservations must be made by emailing this email address, pegstudio@nashville.gov. This email address will send an email to both me and the other 2 Peg Studio employees so that we can facilitate and schedule these checkouts. The email that's sent out must have the following questions answered. Number 1, what equipment would you like to check out? Number 2, which Wednesday would you like to come pick this equipment up? Obviously, like I said, only Wednesdays are going to be available to come check out. So if it doesn't fit for somebody picking up on a Wednesday, then they'll have to pick a Wednesday in the future that they can make. Number 3, have you or anyone in your household have any of the following symptoms the last 21 days? Sore throat, cough, chills, body aches, shortness of breath, loss of smell, loss of taste, fever, or a temperature of over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Have you or anyone in your household have been tested for COVID-19? Do you have any reason to believe that you or anyone in your household has been exposed to or acquired COVID-19? To the best of your knowledge, have you been in close proximity to any individual who was tested positive for COVID-19? Obviously, if any of the last 4 questions are yes, then we are going to obviously, that's going to be a disqualification for renting out equipment. Equipment pickups will be held at the Howard office building. So originally we were thinking about doing this at the courthouse, the historic courthouse. That's where the M&N offices are, and that would be most convenient for us. However, the issue with that is that there is not a lot of parking, and the only parking that is available is paid parking. So the handoff would be a lot more inconvenient for the member. So we've instead decided to move it to the Howard office building, which has much more available public parking. So we instruct the NECAT members to park in any of the available public parking spaces. When they arrive, they will meet me or my staff at the front door. At this point, we will then take their temperature with a contactless forehead, a temperature scanner. If their temperature is over 100.4, they will be disqualified and asked to send home, and they will not be allowed to check out equipment. If their temperature is below that, they'll be taken inside to the control room where they'll be given the equipment and also be asked to pay. We have a card reader in there that we will only be accepting either credit or debit cards. Cash will not be accepted. If they do not get there within the window of 12 noon to 12:30 on a Wednesday, they will not be given the equipment. This is just done so that we can respect the time from our staff and make sure that we are not sitting there all day waiting for them to show up. Same thing for the return equipment. Return equipment must be submitted or must be brought back on at 11 o'clock. If they're not there by 11:30, they will be charged for an additional week. And obviously, we just want to make sure that we are able to respect any new reservations that are made for that week, and make sure that we're able to facilitate and give those cameras to the people that are trying to reserve them. If people need to cancel, please do it ASAP. Obviously, the sooner they can let us know that they're canceling, the better. And we want to make sure that we are able to adjust our schedules if necessary. Any questions? So they'll be sent to pigstudio@nashville.gov. So this is going to be obviously a work in progress. We're going to be adjusting probably this policy as we kind of feel this out, but we're hoping to start this immediately. As soon as this meeting's over, I'm going to work with Cam to send this information out to the NECAT membership so they can be aware of it and they can start reserving the equipment. Obviously, the sooner we can get our cameras in the hands of producers, the better. Anybody have any questions?
I've got an email going out tomorrow for, like I say, the film festival and the Dr. Gangrene event. I can add this to the email in a condensed version with a reach out. If we could post this in a way that all the members can see. The only thing I would suggest to you that I don't see here towards the bottom is you should put a mask requirement on when it comes to pickup.
That's a great idea. Yep, I will put that on there.
Is this something we could put on this website as well, since it's a lot of detail?
We definitely can, and Tim usually handles that. John, I don't know if you have all those passwords, but but we could definitely get this up. But yeah, we could put this information up this week, and just as soon as you're ready to go on this, we'll pull the trigger and let people know that they can get cameras. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I was gonna suggest, John, that instead of they paying there to avoid less contact with you guys, to have a link online when they answer all those questions, just to pay right there, and then you just guide me to handle the equipment.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, and I think that we definitely can try that instead of the paying in person. That's a great idea.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else, John? That's awesome. That's going to hopefully help and encourage people not only to do that, but also reinstate some of the producer and technician fees, producer fees, really. That's great. Okay, well, if there's no questions for John, I'm going to move into group discussion. I have a couple topics here. The first one is kind of going back to the last meeting, knowing where we are, now that we have the Dugas family, even though it was half of what we expected, we still have this little runway. The ball will need to be rolled up the hill sooner than later to make sure we keep going through this studio closure time, which, as John mentioned, looks like it'll be probably the spring. It's a whole new world, and I know we're looking at new grants, and as Shayla mentioned, there are some opportunities. And Shayla, what I would ask is if you wouldn't mind sending the group those names, the Atlas and the other one that you just mentioned, so we can do some research. I mean, one of the things that we're going to need to look at, since we don't have an executive director who would normally go out and write grant proposals, is like, we've been doing this kind of makeshift, myself and the board with Cam, to try to do the best we can to write these things. We do have a person, a contact that does this for a living that we could ask to assist us, but I think there's also other opportunities for us as far as what the station and the channels can provide for local businesses. And one of the things that I've been talking to a couple of you about, as well as Cam, is like there should be a way to sponsor, not just, as opposed to a grant program that's, working with schools or participants, but how about something that we can look at that participates or actually sponsors programming? And I know Dana and you and I have spoken about potential, maybe there's maybe it's Tractor Supply, maybe there's some educational videos that we could actually run on the channel, like programming sponsored in part by Tractor Supply. Maybe there's one we can do for Pedigree. Maybe there's one we can do for Nissan. So, I mean, and there's also, I think, an opportunity, I think Cam had discussed this, reaching out to some of the local music companies. We have a good friend of NECAT with a council member who works for BMI. Maybe there's a BMI sponsored songwriting or like, maybe in the round kind of program that we can have that focuses on BMI singer-songwriters. So, I mean, with that, I want to open this up for discussion, because I think we should, if we want to go this route, I think there's an ability to create a rate card for both the large and the small of what kind of packages we can offer or sponsorship levels we can offer for shows. And again, this is just me and from my initial conversations, and I want to get the board's input on what's our value proposition. The value proposition, in my opinion, is the bandwidth of channels, both television and online. And, people are live streaming anyway. I think we could, edit and tailor Zoom or any kind of recordings that we make to actually make it work on the air. And I think there's value there, especially with a lot of people looking to have, the access to getting viewership. So with that, I throw that out to people to chime in, give their input, and let me know what your thoughts are.
So my initial thought was to target bigger companies in Nashville who probably have their own video production facilities. My last job was at Brookdale Senior Living. We had our own studio. I produced hours of content a month. Now, a lot of it was internal. A lot of it was never intended for anybody external to see. But I know a lot of companies, like Tyler said, my husband does video production at Tractor Supply. So targeting some of these bigger companies to see if they already have content produced that is external facing that we could repurpose or repackage for a sponsored block on our channels. So I've been kind of talking to some folks at some bigger companies, seeing who the contacts would be, maybe going through the foundations as opposed to the actual marketing, communications, video production teams. And also looking at what companies, like I was looking at Cracker Barrel's YouTube, they have a ton of content, but kind of like to Tyler's point, putting together a rate card saying like, okay, if you want to sponsor a 30-minute, 30 minutes, what does that look like? What does that cost? And then what are we asking from them? Some of these folks who already have content that they're just like, yeah, here you go. Others that may take some effort on their part to get something together that is external facing. Or we can say, do you, kind of like in a Feel Good Friday vein, is there a piece of educational content that we can produce with a panel of your subject matter experts? So, yeah, so that's kind of my thought, is to just look at these companies who probably already churn out content and say, we'll give you another, distribution channel for what you're already producing in exchange for, I don't know what, $2,000 for 30 minutes. $5,000, I don't know, that's up for debate, but just to kind of package it more cleanly before approaching any of these companies.
I think the couple things that we have to make sure that we're touching whenever it comes to repurposing any kind of material is we probably need to give them the basic fact sheet that we run with all NECAT programs, because it can't be advertising. It's got to be sponsored in part by, it's got to be within the zone, because what we can't afford to do is redo everybody's work for them. It's right. One of those things. If it doesn't already exist, we don't have the capacity with the membership and just to be able to do all that. I think doing it in 30-minute spurts is good, but I think what we need to figure out is there needs to be some, whether it be a year at a time, 6 months at a time, 10 programs at a time, whatever it be. There needs to be a commitment that's not just for like, hey, we're going to sponsor just this one thing. If it's a show, they're going to sponsor X amount of episodes. If it's a time slot, they're going to sponsor it for a year, etc. It's not just piecemeal where they want to run it as if it was commercial content, where they say, hey, we got an initiative, we only want to run it one time, we're going to give you $2,000 for this one time slot. Not that that's a bad thing, but I think we need more long-term partnerships.
Yeah.
Personally.
I agree with you there. And I agree with you on the type of content, which is why I'm looking for companies who do more content marketing. So it's not just like here's pictures of puppies eating pedigree food. You know what I mean? Right. It's more of the departments who produce that's like, here's how you take care of your pet. It may subtly promote Mars, yes, because that's why they're producing it and why they're sponsoring it. But the content in of its nature is more educational than it is, direct promoting.
I love that idea, and I think there's so many opportunities. I mean, educational content for companies like Pedigree or Tractor Supply. I think there's limitless amounts of things that we could do. I think it comes to things like everything from how to take care of an animal, how to repair a piece of equipment. All of that stuff would be fantastic programming. I think when it comes to anything like Cracker Barrel was one that a couple years ago, I know I was working for a different company and we had reached out about having them sponsor a music program, and they didn't do it for us because they were already doing something in-house. So even if we could move that content over so we're airing it, I think is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was looking at. Is they have their own music show, and my boss at Brookdale came from Cracker Barrel, so I'm working on getting a contact to see if it's a possibility there. So, but
Yeah, I think that is all great. And going back to the value proposition, you know how companies trying to reach out to certain communities and then trying to figure out how to. This is a great tool because we got the community access television. So this is a way that we can say you got direct, how you say, an audience here for you on our channels. This is a great way that you can reach your audience. We just need to have a package like levels, for how many shows, for how many weeks, or for how many months. This is how much it's going to cost you for this amount of time. And, in MPT, they have these programs where they talk about certain products or certain things, own a piece of history or whatever. And this is brought to you by in-kind donation of. So we can word it sort of like that, so it'll work within our bylaws.
yeah,
And I think as far as programming goes, I mean, again, I would think big. I mean, obviously Nashville's a music town. I think music makes sense. If we could get any type of cooking or exercise programming on the air, I think would be fantastic. That's something with when it comes, I will put a thought in your head, Dana, but like when it comes to Brookdale and seniors, if we had a program that was just like, hey, teach seniors how to do some kind of exercise from in their house, that's something that I would love to air because we need that kind of content. We don't really have any exercise programs on right now. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there to teach that, and there's not a lot when it comes to production because it is one room, one camera, usually whenever you see how those exercise videos are put together. So just a thought.
I would love to target Brookdale, but I know they're dead broke.
Understandable. Yep.
I am leaving senior living alone while they fight through COVID. But that's exactly the type of content that I'm thinking with. Like, I know my husband does videos of like how to put together a chicken coop, how to, build a dog. I don't know what, but like it is that type of more how-to stuff. And I'll think about who we could target for some exercise fitness stuff. That's a really good idea. And I'll still pitch Brookdale, but I'm just not as confident in this current climate.
Totally understandable.
The CMA has a foundation.
Okay.
So that's another one there. And the Country Music Association have a program called Music Cares. And they work directly with children to write songs. And they usually use a big artist or a few artists to co-write with the kids. And they have these camps where they come together. And at the end of the day, they have a song that they've written together with the kids. And they send out the videos to the press. So this is another one that we could probably target to get that program into the air, and maybe that might be a good Feel Good Friday partnership there.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to mention that I think there's a tie-in to Feel Good Friday as well. If these corporations are interested, I mean, that might be a good tie-in for all that. So
I think when we're putting together the rate card or the package, we should have those options, almost like an a la carte thing, like, Feel Good Friday option with, content and or sponsorship of A level program, B level program. Yeah. I mean, I think you can make it, fit for anybody, I think.
And I do think that it's kind of those things where like the program that they have already, program that we can produce, and whenever we're back in studio, obviously that changes things, so we can make a whole lot of things. In the past, that's basically how our Nashville came together. It was money given by the government, but that was the money got spent on making the show. When it comes to content, there's a lot of things we could do if we had the power to do it. It's just a matter of, again, figuring out how long is the order for, how many episodes of any one thing are we committing to do if we're going to make it, and that we have the capacity to do that. So I think we go bigger on this. I mean, I think whether it comes down to, there's stuff that's weekly shows, and then there's stuff that's like, hey, I know the Girl Scouts at one point, we talked about doing a project with them where it was just a documentary about the person who founded the Girl Scout camp here in Nashville. She was basically the first Black Girl Scout leader. I think stuff like that is good because it's like, okay, you can sponsor this program. We will go out and actually physically produce this documentary and put it on air and put your branding on it. That's the kind of stuff that we can do. It's just a matter of pitching ideas, and we've got limitless, amounts of things that we could do. It's just a matter of finding the right corporate sponsor to do that kind of stuff. And so, again, I would kind of go big when it comes to, I think we need to be looking for big companies, and don't be afraid to ask for more money, just because I think that's kind of one of the things that got us into the trouble that we got into. Is like, even with our Nashville, we did 20 episodes of that for, a very small amount of money. I can tell you the idea of making 20 episodes of anything for $50,000 is insane. That is a ridiculous, like, to do a full production. Don't be afraid to ask for more, because I think a lot of those big companies are willing to spend it if the content's good.
Also, this conversation reminded me that I'd had a conversation with the Southern Festival of Books, because they were broadcasting all of their content this year. They said they would let us re-air some of the content. They just wanted to touch base with us after the festival. So I just sent them a note while everyone was talking to remind them that we want to air it.
Great. Does anyone want to help myself and Dana and everyone try to come up with a rate card? This is because now I think we have to establish, what we're offering and what our pricing structure should be.
I think.
Tyler.
Somebody?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm happy to take a stab at it.
Okay.
A stab at a first draft at least. I designed our rate cards for all of our events at CARES, so I can pull some of that up and see the different sponsorship levels we used there. But just then maybe we'll come up with 3 and then say, in addition, we could have a Feel Good Friday tie-in. And then I'll share that with you guys, and I want to make sure that I have all the, to your point, Cam, that, we make sure that we have all the specifications of the type of content that's appropriate layered into that document as well.
Great.
I was just going to say, is there anything in the draft business plan that we did that could be beneficial? If so, Dana and Tyler, I could send that to you, the latest draft.
Yeah.
And there might even just be some ideas from it, but I can send that to you.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can use the mission and vision of NECAT for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who we are.
And I think we broke down some sponsorships and that kind of thing from businesses in there. Yeah, so that might be helpful. I'll send it to you.
And then once we get that rate sheet finalized, we can also do, Shauna Lynn, like you did, a Google Doc of ideas and contacts. And I can provide like a sample pitch email, that is kind of easy to copy and paste and customize if you have a content or a contact somewhere. But yeah, I think getting started with a rate sheet is good, and hopefully we could get something finalized by our next meeting. I can get you guys something probably by the end of the week. So
wonderful.
So I got a question.
I'm sorry.
Nope, go ahead. You already started. I remember it.
All right. This is off the subject, but I did a fundraiser for my birthday for NECAT, and I raised $350.
All right.
So I don't know, Tyler, since you're in charge of that part, did you get the money? How does it work? Does Facebook send the money? I don't know. It
comes via PayPal normally. I don't know, Rachel, have you seen anything coming from Facebook? Yeah, I think it takes a minute though. That was like a week ago, wasn't it, Shayla?
Yeah, the 14.
Yeah.
It takes a while, and it'll show up with a specific sponsorship link to it. So
It was kind of funny because I have a client in Miami and we were talking. He had to pay me for some work I'm doing for him. And he said, well, I want to send you some money. They said, just send it through the regular mail or just Venmo me.
Oh, my headphone just died. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, my headphones just died. Let's see. And then he saw that I was doing that fundraiser on Facebook, and he saw that it was for me, so he donated $100.
Take it.
And I said, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Take it.
All right, so my question is, I'm not necessarily sure how to, I guess, will we be into potentially partnering with content creators who may have the relationships with like a corporation or something to somehow, kind of how we're doing with the nonprofits, maybe splitting off the money that comes in? If I'm not even sure of the question. Basically, this is what's going on.
I think I follow you. Yeah. I would
Yeah.
say, go ahead, Cameron.
I was going to say, historically, with any of our producers that we've ever had, we've allowed sponsorship of programs. The way that it works is NECAT operates as a 501c3. So where a producer at NECAT is not. So what they could do is if they went to if the producer went to a corporate sponsor and got money for their show, that sponsor could write a check to NECAT. We would give 90% of the money to the producer to make their show. 10% of that was kept by NECAT just as an administration fee, basically, that went into all of the regular stuff that goes on here. But 90% of the money went to the actual producer. So if we had people that were out there hustling their own shows, trying to make their own money, and they just wanted a space to do that, if they raised $100,000, they would keep $90,000 and we would take $10,000, et cetera. Obviously with us, it was usually like, you would have people that would like, say they went down to a sandwich shop, and sandwich shop said, hey, I'm happy to donate, but I need a way that I can make this tax deductible. They would write a check for $250 to NECAT. NECAT would deposit that check and then give the filmmaker back everything less 10%. And that way they would be covered. The corporate sponsor would be given a tax deductible situation. The filmmaker would be given money, and NECAT would make 10% of whatever that donation was, just for basic administration fees.
And again, to reiterate what you said, Cam, it's got to be within the confines of how we broadcast programming, where it can't be like any kind of advertisement. So.
Correct. And I think we had $100 minimum was it had to be at least $100 donation for us to do that.
Okay. All right. That's pretty cool.
And I honestly, like, I think that's adjustable, up the scale, basically. Like if someone were to come in with, if someone came up with $100,000, like we can adjust accordingly for that. If it meant that they were like, well, I could go somewhere else and keep all of this money. However we need to do that. I think that's the scale is slidable, however anyone sees fit, but that's what we have had in place in the past.
Yeah, I was asking basically because I've been shooting these cooking shows and I've been talking to these people at Kroger. I'm like, man, maybe that might be cool to keep it really community driven, to where it's like, it's about Nashville, it's about the community, and it'd be a way to raise money for NECAT at the same time, do these shows, and go in and be like, look, you can help the community and produce cooking content. Just thinking about it like that.
Well, and it makes the great thing for the corporate person is it's like if they're paying you as a production company, there's taxes on all that. If they're donating it to the 501c3 and we're giving it that way, it makes it tax deductible for them. So it gives them incentive to give more money.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And guys, just to provide a little bit of clarity on the broadcast side of it, I think that the main thing that we have to watch out when we're broadcasting any sort of sponsorship or any sort of underwriting for a program is that there's no mention of any call to action on air. And so no mention of any product on air. It's essentially, I think that what usually works is just to say this program is brought to you by, and then the name of the company. Anytime you say anything in regards to a product or any superlative description of that company or any product that they provide is looked at as a call to action. So you just can't say anything that even remotely appears like a call to action on the air, because that's going to be in violation of the nonprofit status.
What
Product
about,
placement's not an issue though, right? As long as there's no call to action.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Product placement, as long as there's no call to action, is not an issue, right?
Give me an example of what you mean by
All right,
product
so if I
placement.
was doing a cooking show and I had, and I only used Duke's mayonnaise, and I had a jar of Duke's mayonnaise on the table that I was using, and didn't say that I only use Duke's mayonnaise, but if it was just there.
Right.
That would be acceptable.
Yeah, from my perspective, as the person who checks all this content, that would be fine because it fits in the manner of in a cooking show, a jar of mayonnaise makes sense there. If you're doing a show about music and you had a giant mayonnaise thing as your microphone platform, I might go maybe that's over the line. But I think in the sense of it just has to work. It's the idea of like Coca-Cola will never sue you for product placement if you drink a Coca-Cola, but the moment you break the bottle and use it as a knife, their lawyers are going to come after you. It's
right.
You got to use it in a way that makes sense for what the product is.
Right. That
Right.
makes sense. Great. Well, I look forward to seeing the draft, Dana, and I'm happy to get on the phone and anytime and talk through some of the stuff too. And I know Cam probably has some additional ideas that he can provide if necessary too. I open it up to group discussion on anything else before my last topic. Anyone have anything else they want to talk about before my last topic?
I have a question.
Yep.
So even once we get the document or pitch sheet, whatever it is that we go to these people, what are the numbers that we use to sell it? Like, what are the viewership? Do we just use like the Comcast viewers?
Yeah.
Do we have that? Do we have something that
we unfortunately don't get like Nielsen data like other TV stations.
Right.
All we have is like where it's accessible, like the
Like
19
reach.
counties in Middle Tennessee via AT&T and Comcast and Davidson on the 3 chip. That's all we really have. We don't have any. We're not able to provide, this program gets X amount of viewers. Unfortunately, we don't have that.
Right,
But we can
do
provide
have-
the reach, right?
Right.
And that's what I said. We could, talk about where it's accessible from, how many counties in Middle Tennessee, et cetera. Yeah.
Is that on the website, or do we
It
have
should
a
be on our
document with
website, I
all of that?
believe. Yeah.
Okay.
And then also, Tyler, we also have the video on demand numbers. So how many times things have been viewed on our website on demand, which is a small, obviously a small part of it, but it's still, could be potentially information that people could then use and say, this program had been streamed X amount of times, or I average X amount of views on demand, or however they want to word it, that would be beneficial to them, would be potentially important.
Yeah. All right.
Great. Well, if there are no other questions or topics, I want to bring up the last one that I have on the agenda, which is the board officer 2021. A little unusual. Typically, we do officer elections every fiscal year, which runs from July to June. We didn't do any this year. The biggest issue that I have is that I'm going to be stepping down in February. After 2 complete terms of 3 years, I'm not allowed to do anymore. So February is my last month, or actually by the beginning of January, technically, because beginning of February is when I got sworn in. I've been actively as chair, obviously, but I've also, since Akila Reed left last year, doing duties as secretary. So there's 2 officer roles that are going to be open. And I am proposing that we elect those positions now for the next meeting, so I can actually help the new chair and new secretary in the transition while I'm still around. I think our vice chair and treasurer are still, actually the only thing I would say, the treasurer, Aisha, who's not on this call, she's up for renewal in February. Now, we don't have any guarantee that she will be. Usually Ashley in the Metro's office does take into consideration that someone wants to continue. She has mentioned that she wishes to continue on as a member of NECAT. But I would like to call for a motion for nominees for both chair and secretary. So I have had conversations. I'm not coming into this blind. I've talked to both Shayla for chair and Dana for secretary. But if there's anybody else who, I mean, again, I don't want to be like presumptive, but I do want to actually open it up if there's anyone who was interested or wanted to nominate anybody else, that we do that now. So we could take a vote. And unfortunately, we don't have a full quorum. We don't have a couple members here. We don't have Joe. Actually, I think Joe's the only one missing at this point because Brian, you came on late. But I know it's out of, I mean, I don't know. It's from a Robert's Rules of Order. I'm not sure how appropriate this is to do midterm and or partial elections, but I just know that this needs to be done because I'm leaving. So I'll open it up first to see if anyone wants to actually have the elections for these two positions now, or if we want to move it and table it to the next meeting. Anyone?
Tyler, 2 questions.
Yes.
Do we want to, so should the motion be for nominations for chair-elect? And then that way when they can still transition and then it picks up once you're gone?
Great idea.
Then that person becomes chair, because I think having 2 chairs may violate some bylaws somewhere.
Well, I was going to say, typically what happens when you call for the chair or any officers, that once the election has happened, it actually transfers over to the new, the new appointee, right, like even in that meeting. So I'm fine with that. Selfishly, I will say that, having double duty as secretary, I would like to,
right,
relinquish
right.
that.
I think that one needs to be filled.
Yeah, that's been empty since, yeah.
So just those 2 questions, just that one, I guess, one question of, for our bylaws, which I need to pull up real quick, but
it's pretty basic. Yeah, there's not much there. I didn't look at it. It's basically saying what I just said, like, the call for nominees, and then once elected, the people who actually have been elected take over for the remainder of that meeting or then the next meeting. So.
Okay, that was my only question. I mean, if we're all okay with it and we fit within the bylaws, I'd make a motion to nominate Shayla and Dana. I think they'd be great.
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second. Brian.
1 second. Okay, so so on the floor now, we're voting for the board officer for secretary to be to go into effect for at the end of this meeting and the next meeting. And we're also going into, we're voting for chair-elect for Shayla, for then that could be starting in February. All right, do we all in favor for both these nominations say yay?
Yay.
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 Any opposed? No opposed? Okay, well, congratulations, Dana, you are our new secretary. And congratulations, Shayla, you are now our chair.
I'm so nervous about this. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Well, the good news is we have a few months. Sean Lynn is staying, her term is for another couple of years, but her term as vice chair goes through next June. And Aisha, you will also be helping on the treasury side, and I'm here, and Ken, we're all here to help support. Likewise, Dana, whatever you need, I'm here for that role. So, okay. If there are no other business items, I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
So moved.
All right. Well,
no objection.
Again, thank you, everybody. I think this is a very productive meeting. Again, we have additional runway to keep things running, given the fact that our studio is closed to the spring. I think we have a lot of good ideas. I think we have a lot of good opportunities. And I want to thank, and just kind of echo what John said, it's not your typical Metro board. This is very hands-on, and I'm glad that all of you have been so engaged and so passionate about trying to make this work. So I think I can speak on behalf of Cam and ITS guys that it is appreciated. And we'll send out a meeting recap and let you know when our next meeting will be. So with that, I'm going to call for an end of the meeting and stop recording now. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Brian Rossman,
Yes, ma'am.
I need to reach out to you about Feel Good Friday and the website. So